Today we are with someone who is considered kind of a icon in the Broadway and cabaret community, Marty Thomas. And together with Marissa Rosen, they have created the holiday album. Marty, how did this album come about?
Oh, well, thanks for having me on the show today. The
Welcome.
album it was a long time coming. I've always wanted to do a holiday album. I was raised on Christmas being such a dramatic season with the family. I was raised in a very, very religious household. So Christmas was so much more than any other holiday. It was family. It was gathering. It was praise and worship. It was so many things. Of course, moving to New York, holidays became a much more vibrant and well-rounded, inclusive scenario. So when I started to put together this solo album, I reached out to my friend Marissa. We had performed a song from the musical Elf at Joe's Pub several years ago in a holiday concert, and I wanted that song to be on the album. So I asked Marissa if she would guest on the record, and she said yes. And a few hours later, I had, without her knowing, planned a duet album. And I had a concept based in comedy and cabaret because that's the world I love to live in. And Marissa jumped on board with eagerness, and the award-winning holiday album was born. We spent a few weeks recording it and conceptualizing it, and had a blast.
And I see that we've had Marissa join us. Marissa, hi, how are
Hi.
you?
I was just hanging out and I was like, where is everybody?
That's the beauty of Zoom.
Tell me about it.
How did you become involved in this album?
Well, Marty and I have been best friends for many, many years and performed with each other many, many times. And like I'm sure he explained, he was looking to put together a holiday album and found a YouTube video of us that we had performed at Joe's Pub a while back and was like, can we sing this on the album? And I was like, yeah, we can. And then 3 hours later, I was given a set list for an entire album I was going to record. So that's how Marty Thomas works. And that's how the award-winning holiday album was born.
Now, Marty, you first came onto my radar when I was at seeing Jason Robert Brown's show when you were the guest artist. You really are like kind of like a cult, along with Marissa, icon of New York. And then I saw your gay prom show and reviewed that.
Thank you, by the way, for coming to that, Susanna. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. But that's when you fell on my radar. So let's let our audience know how you got involved in the business and a little bit about your credits.
Sure. I got involved. I've been a performer since I was a child. I grew up on a farm in a religious musical family, and found some really awesome opportunities at a very young age to tour and do regional theater, which led its way to finding an agent in New York. And I made my Broadway debut when I was 11 in The Secret Garden.
Wow.
Did a lot of TV work, was on a TV competition show called Star Search back in the day. And came back to New York after I had worked in the country music industry for a while in Nashville and Orlando and Branson, and came back to New York to start recording gospel contemporary Christian music that I was releasing in the early 2000s, and came back to the Broadway stage with Wicked in 2004, and did follow that up with Xanadu in 07, 08, I believe. And since I've been doing primarily cabaret and touring concert work, I have discovered that my favorite character to play is Marty Thomas. And though I love and miss the theater so richly, I am definitely my happiest and in my element when I'm creating and writing, and when I'm at the helm and when I'm steering the ship, than I am in theatrical productions. I cannot wait, that being said, to get back to the theater.
I'm surprised our paths didn't connect earlier but I'm older than you, so I think I did some of it before you.
I've known your name for quite some time. We just have never been in the same room at the same time. Marissa and I are very similar. We, the way that our paths crossed when we first met, we were living a few blocks apart from each other. We went to the same gym. We did all the same things. We had so many mutual friends, but we had just never crossed paths until the night we met. Which, you want to tell her how we met, Marissa?
Oh, all
Yeah.
right, I'll do it. I was celebrating a great callback because I believe you should always celebrate even a little success in the theater industry
Amen.
anytime. And I was with a bunch of friends, and we were going to a bar called Therapy Bar where the incredible Rochelle Rack was performing a nightlife show there. And we were there, and then we were going to go across the street to this brand new bar called Industry Bar, which later on in life became our second home, where we did our diva show together for 8 years. But that evening we were just all hanging out, and I was doing some sort of silly stanked face dance move across the pool table, and I turn my head and I see this other person right across the way doing almost the exact same dance, and we just went and we just did that thing where you're like, I need to know you. We kind of exchanged information. We talked a little bit on Facebook and social media, but it dwindled. And then Marty at the time was in the off-Broadway show My Big Gay Italian Wedding. And he was performing one night and saw me in the lobby and was like, oh, you. And I was like, me. And he was like, are you here to see me? And I was like, sure. So I said, I'll talk to you after the show. And after the show, I got to tell him that that was actually the callback I was celebrating that evening. And I was going into the show he was currently in that next night. So then randomly, we were both in the same off-Broadway show, found out we lived 10 blocks away from each other, did all the same things, and you can't find us not together ever since. So it was pretty special.
Marissa, can you lead us a little bit into your career and what your career has been?
Sure. I like to say that my journey has been a unique one, which I think matches my personality. I've been performing since as long as I can remember. I'm from Long Island. So I always said we didn't have a lot of community regional theater because we were so close to Manhattan. So I did all of the school plays and things like that. But I was a huge music theory nerd. I was in every choir, every theory class, every harmony moment, everything. So that was my joy in life. And I remember singing, and they were like, "You're a musical theater belter." And I was like, "What is that?" I had no idea what they were talking about. And I was like, "Oh, I sing loud. Yeah, I get it. Belting." So from then on, I learned how to do it properly. But I moved to the city the day after I graduated high school, literally that next day. And I went to school there, and I've done like did a lot of regional stuff. I worked on cruise ships, and then I came back right before I booked My Big Gay Italian Wedding, and I was like, this is it. I want an agent, I want a big show, and I want a boyfriend. And I got an agent, and I got a show, and I got a gay wife. So I got 2 out of the 3. And so since then, since I've met Marty, it's kind of been a whirlwind of where Marty has said so beautifully that his favorite character to play is Marty Thomas. My favorite character to play was someone else. I was very used to playing a character. So when I came into the nightlife scene with Marty, which he kind of had to nudge me into, I had to
Kicking and
lose.
screaming.
It wasn't that much screaming, but he would, it was a big learning experience for me to feel comfortable playing this diva glamorized version of myself who's normally hired to play children on stage. So, but for years and years, he blessed me with so many amazing gigs. We got to sing together, we got to record together, and we created this Marty and Marissa brand, which we were able to balance with theater life, where I was doing off-Broadway and regional. And then this past November, I made my Broadway debut with Kristen Chenoweth in For the Girls. And so I'd been touring with her, and it just seemed like all my music theory nerdness plus my confidence through Marty got me Kristen's show. So it was this beautiful kind of circle of fate.
Hey, musical theory nerd. Whoa, is all I have to say to that.
I know, but I'll tell you what, it has helped me so much in my life. But
Oh,
it
yes,
also
of course.
helps that I like it, because I'm like, oh yeah, ooh, and that's what Marty and I always thrive on, like, arranging things. Our brain works in arrangements, and he'll be like, sing this harmony, and I'll be like, but I hear this harmony, and he's like, no, and I was like, please, and then I'll be like, oh, I like it too. And so we have a beautiful, delicate balance of power in our friendship.
It makes total sense to me, because when I was singing, I always heard the harmony in everything. It was hard when people said, oh, sing this one, but there's a better harmony. Here it is.
Exactly.
So I totally get it.
Yeah.
Marty, you have a song where you have all these different singers, Alicia Umpress, Christina Bianca, Melinda Doolittle, Rachel uh, Vosk, Rachel Potter, Jessica Vosk, Diana Dujar. I can never say
DeGarmo,
DeGarmo.
yeah.
Yes, I can never say her last name. No guys.
We
What
only
is it,
needed one.
Marty and the girls.
I've always worked well that way. I have always been, I was raised as a feminist, and I was raised to revere women on so many levels. A child with many sisters and a very strong and outspoken mother. And I have always been drawn to very powerful voices, but my ear always goes to those voices that have the yin and yang of power with vulnerability. So, traditionally, I would always think about it as that masculine, virile, powerful belt, and a singer that can turn that on a dime and sing a vulnerable melody that will break your heart has always been my favorite kind of singer. So obviously, I've been drawn to the divas, the trifectas of the Whitney, the Celine, the Mariah. So when I started working in nightlife and started realizing that I could sort of craft my own experience and be the author of my own scenario and my own fate, I started reaching out to these women that I respected and loved, and started trying to create not only a great show for the community, but a platform. And I was able to create a platform where women who have amazing credits and who have made great names for themselves could draw in an audience. And with their resume and with their talent, I was able to also provide a spotlight and a platform for these up and coming performers that were still
Which is
developing
brilliant.
their shtick and their act and learning who they were on stage. And for me, it was like playing dress up in Barbie all the time, because I got to, I was working on their wardrobe, and I was working on their hair, and I was working with designing the show and the set and the tracks and the arrangements. So it was just the traditional putting up a show in the old barn kind of scenario for 8 years. And in that time, I really learned how to speak to women on so many levels, but also how to be more encouraging and to be more nurturing and to not be a jerk. I got put in my place many times, but through that process, I love putting a room full of powerful women together to see what they can create. So I wrote this arrangement to close out the album. The album is very much a story album that you listen to from track 1 to track 8 in my head. And it's joyful, it's cartoonish, it's musical, it's fun, but there's also an element of the time we're living in now that I wanted to be represented on the record. And I wanted a melancholy sense of hopefulness to close out the record. I've always been drawn to the lyric of Hard Candy Christmas because it's about, it's not a Christmas song. It just talks about
It is,
Christmas
but
time.
it isn't.
Right.
It is in a strange
It
way.
is. It's in the Christmas songbook, the holiday songbook, but to me, it's so much bigger than that, because
Great.
it's absolutely a lyric that's being spoken to from absolute heartache and devastation, but convincing ourselves that we're going to get through this and it's going to be fine and dandy. And Marissa and I always use the word fine to be like, if you say, "How are you doing?" and Marissa says, "I'm fine," she is not fine.
Not fine.
No, we're not fine.
She is not okay. Fine for us means I'm alive.
Exactly. You're surviving.
Right. So
No, I agree. And I think Carol Hall's music in all of everything that she writes is like that.
yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And I envisioned this arrangement like a Zoom call like we're having now, where you can get together with
Cool.
performers from around the world and get caught up and like just quickly put eye to eye, rather than a text that we've gotten so used to, and actually connect with each other. So I reached out to women all over the country and asked them to record this arrangement, and they literally recorded it from multiple states. And then we got to
So
start the mixing.
did you do like a YouTube video for this?
No, I
You
wrote a
should.
demo. Well, we're working on
We're
it.
working on it.
So the
That's our
reason
next
why is
project.
because, you know, one of the things performers don't think about now is how to market themselves. And you have free marketing. Hello, YouTube. If you get viral, I mean, I've had videos that I've done of interviews that become viral, and I'm like, how the hell did that happen? You know, and then I get like all these comments, which on the paper I never allow because it's like, yeah, okay, I don't care. But on a YouTube thing, yeah, definitely. But it's a great way to market your album, and also, you know, how great, like the Zoom call thing, fabulous idea.
Well, we're working on it. And that's how I envisioned that last track, and it really did come to fruition.
Okay, so I'd like my readers to get, or my listeners now, to get to know you a little bit better. So I'm going to ask you both my favorite question. Marty, you get to answer first. They say that eyes are the windows of the soul, but I think that songs are. What song or cycle, you know, multiple songs, describe who you are right now?
Who I am right now. I could look at, I mean, I'm such a music junkie that settling on one song is
You
just,
get cycle.
it's sort of an impossibility. I have to look to sort of a cycle of Billy Porter's album On the Corner of Broadway and Soul. I sang backup on that record, and it's always been a very important project to me for so many reasons. But now, when we recorded that album almost 20 years ago, now I actually understand the lyrics, and I actually understand the message of what Billy was trying to say as a performer who had been writing the boards for many years and had had extreme highs and extreme lows. And nothing says extreme highs and extreme lows like 2020, honey. So the music on that album, going from joyful celebration to absolute vulnerable depression and putting it all out on the stage, pro or con, just letting people see you. That's my experience right now, is really just trying to be as honest as possible with the world and with myself. And it's a challenge.
Marissa, same question.
This is going to tell your listeners how weird our friendship is, but that was my answer. Billy Porter's On the Corner of Broadway and Soul. I've got it right here. At one of the beginning points of our friendship, I found out that Marty sang on that album, and I had a breakdown because there is an arrangement of Sunday that he sings with the Broadway Inspirational Voices.
Right.
And it got me through a very, very difficult time. And it was one of those, you know, when you need to cry, you don't wanna, but you know, it just has to come out. I put that song on and I am just puddles of tears when the music swells. And Marty's so right. That entire album, and also knowing Billy's journey, he is such a perfect example of a super talent who blew up, then had the huge amounts of success, then had this moment of like, what's going on in my life? Where did it all go? Then all of these people finding Billy through Pose, and all of a sudden be like, who's this person? And people who know him or have followed him, just seeing the perseverance. And I am all about the underdog. So on a very like pop styling, I love women like Lizzo and Meghan Trainor, the busty, curvaceous women who are really paving the way for anybody to be confident and beautiful and bold. And their music reflects that in a very fun way of being like, I don't really care what you think about me, but without being completely rude about it. And I have just found so much joy in listening to them because their music's catchy as heck, but just seeing them being accepted by society just draws me to their whatever they release, I will listen to. So.
Marty, what's your favorite song on the album and why?
My favorite track on that album is probably Hell or High Water. It's the I guess the wrap up of the album for me is just hell or high water. I'm going to praise what's good, and I'm going to accept what's bad, and everywhere in the middle. And I'm going to be honest about it, and I'm going to persevere. And come hell or high water, I'm gonna do me.
I know that you did almost everything for the album. Did you write any songs?
Oh, or you're talking about my album. I thought we were still talking about Billy.
No, I'm
Um,
talking about your album.
uh, on this album, it was mostly covers, but the first track, which is a comedic track, I wrote and put together kind of the concept of the album, which is very tongue in cheek, which is very much what Marissa and I are. We staged an imaginary award show where Celine Dion, our idol, presents us with the greatest holiday album ever recorded award, and we get to give our all-time all our dream acceptance speech to adoring fans before we share with them the award-winning holiday album. And it certainly gave us a kick and made us laugh and laugh. Our good friend Christina Bianco, world-renowned impersonator, played Celine Dion on our record, and it's very funny. So I wrote that one, but maybe next year we'll have some original tunes on.
Now, what is your favorite song on your album? Is this it?
My favorite song on this album is we filled a very there was a void in the market for a disco Hanukkah bop, and I told you I really wanted this album to be very inclusive, and Marissa's mother Deb would never forgive me if I didn't put a disco Hanukkah bop on the album, and Marissa is a disco diva who needed a bop. So I took an old Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings R&B slow jam, and I put a disco beat behind it, and 8 Days of Hanukkah was born. And let me tell you, that tune slaps. Marissa sings it into the ground.
I have to hear it because I was looking all over God's Hat Baker for a Hanukkah song that I thought was good. And I finally found the Peter, Paul, and Mary Light One Candle, but it's still not a fabulous song. It's okay. It's got some moments to it. Needs rearranging, but I was like, wait, what happened to Hanukkah songs?
It's
Somebody
hard to find.
Well,
Very
maybe
hard
next
to
year you'll be
find.
covering Marissa Rosen and 8 Days of Hanukkah from the award-winning holiday album, available
Well,
on
if
iTunes
it
and
were
Spotify
recorded,
right now.
Marissa, I would be putting it on tonight because I look for these things.
Isn't
We'll have
tonight
it.
the first night of Hanukkah? Am I right about that?
Yes, it
It
is.
sure is.
Happy Hanukkah, by the way.
Happy Hanukkah.
Marissa, what's your favorite song on the album and why?
Well, I feel like my answer changes every time I'm asked this question, but I do really love all the tracks so much. My answer this evening, because I was actually just listening to it, is Please Come Home for Christmas, which is a tune that Marty sings. Throughout this album, throughout my whole entire friendship with Marty, I often get angry in a very loving way with how perfect his voice sounds all the time. So there were moments we were teaching each other when we were engineering, basically the album, and I'd be sitting there and he was recording behind me, and I'd have all these moments of being like, you really sing? Is that like, I'd hear it and it's frustrating, but it's lovely because you're like, I want to sound like I'm auto-tuned all the time.
Oh,
And
that's kind.
he just has, I don't know, if you've never heard Marty Thomas sing, like, shame on you. And just go get everything he's ever released. His voice is, don't listen, Marty, don't get too excited. This is a nice thing about you. His voice is endless. He's got the range of more than myself. And he's just so methodical in every note that he sings. And Please Come Home for Christmas is just one of those classic Christmas tunes that everyone knows. And he put such a beautiful, crazy twist on it. And I got to back him up singing a million harmonies. So it definitely is good for the soul.
And my last question, only because I'd like people to listen to this interview and it'll go on endlessly if I keep
Right.
talking. What is your Christmas wish for the world?
We both tilted our head in the same direction.
I know.
You both get to answer this question.
All
I have
right.
so many Christmas wishes for the world. For me personally, a deeper understanding and a deeper ability to connect with my family. I love my family very much, but this election cycle that's been going on for close to 43 years is has been ripping my family apart because we sit on such opposite sides of the spectrum, and we're at a time in history when it really feels like you can't connect with somebody as a human if you don't have the same fundamental humanity views and beliefs. And so it's been very challenging for my family to connect through this pandemic and through this election cycle. So for myself, I desperately wish for families to be able to reconnect in 2021 after being ripped apart unceremoniously and unfairly for so many years by the media and by politics.
Well, good
Marissa,
answer. Mine's not as deep, but
It's a pony, isn't it?
it is. I just pony. That's all I want for it. No, just, um, it's humanity. It's a cliche answer, but I want us. There are so many people saying that we want this. We want to go back to normal. We want things to go back to the way they were, and I'm like, things are never going to be the same.
what
And I
was
hope
normal?
exactly like were we ever? Nothing was normal. But I just wish for the world to step back, especially America, and see what we look like. I think there are often
Mm.
moments in our life where I've learned how to step back from myself and see what I'm putting out into the world and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let me rethink that. I just kindness. I always say that kindness wins over anything. And I've accumulated so many fantastic people in my life through their kindness that bring me joy rather than being able to do something for them or them being able to do something for me. And I really think that kindness can just bridge that divide that we have. So kindness and ponies, I would have to say.
I want to urge all my readers to go get the holiday album and hear these two amazing, amazing musicians. I've had the chance to hear both of them sing in multiple shows now, and I think you will enjoy this album. Thank you.
Thank